sand whipped through the air like tiny daggers as Lou cowered in the center of the enclosure. Lightning split the darkened New Mexico sky, briefly illuminating the 6 lean figures that emerged from the rocky outcropping. The coyotes moved with predatory grace, their wild yellow eyes fixed on the golden Labrador who had stumbled into their territory. Lou's heart hammered against her ribs as the largest coyote, a battle-scarred male with a torn ear, lowered his head and pulled back his lips to reveal gleaming fangs. The pack spread out in a tactical formation, cutting off any possible escape route. A low, threatening growl rose from their throats, audible even over the howling wind. Lou trembled, her wet fur plastered against her body, making her appear even more vulnerable as the lead coyote took a deliberate step forward, muscles coiled to spring. Hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear where you're watching from. Now, let's continue with the story. 3 years earlier, on a scorching summer morning, Abigail Abby Larson was driving her dusty pickup along a remote stretch of New Mexico highway when she noticed something unusual on the roadside. Slowing down, she peered through the heat waves rising from the asphalt to see a small golden form huddled beneath a scraggly mesquite bush. "What in the world?" she murmured, pulling onto the shoulder. Approaching cautiously, she discovered a Labrador puppy, severely dehydrated and panting heavily in the merciless desert sun. The pup was thin, with no collar or identification, clearly abandoned in this unforgiving landscape. "Hey there, little one," Abby said softly, offering her water bottle. "How'd you end up out here all alone?" After several minutes of gentle coaxing, the puppy allowed Abby to pick her up. A thorough check at local shelters and veterinary offices confirmed what Abby suspected. This was another abandoned pet, likely dropped off by someone passing through who no longer wanted the responsibility. "I could take her," Abby found herself telling Dr. Jack Wheeler, the sanctuary's veterinarian, later that day. Sagebrush could use a good dog around. That was how Lou, named after the ancient Native American pottery shards, Louisa pottery, found near where she was discovered, became part of the Sagebrush Wildlife Sanctuary family. Unlike most dogs, who would bark frantically at the various scents and sounds of desert wildlife, Lou displayed an unusual calmness that impressed even Dr. Wheeler. "I've worked with animals for 25 years, he remarked, after watching Lou sit quietly during an examination of an injured roadrunner. "And I've never seen a dog with such natural composure around wild creatures." As months passed, Lou became Abby's constant companion at the sanctuary, trotting alongside her during daily rounds, carrying small tools in her mouth to help, and providing a friendly face for visitors and staff alike. Daniel Thompson, a wildlife photographer who frequently documented the sanctuary's rehabilitation work, was particularly taken with Lou. "That dog has an old soul," he commented one afternoon, capturing images of Lou observing a recovering jackrabbit with gentle curiosity rather than predatory interest. Life at the sanctuary settled into a peaceful rhythm until that fateful spring morning when Abby's phone rang during her first cup of coffee. The caller's voice was urgent, tinged with both sadness and hope. 3 coyote pups, Abby explained to her team after ending the call. Their mother was killed on Highway 40. Highway Patrol found them huddled beside her body. The gravity of the situation wasn't lost on anyone. Orphaned coyote pups had notoriously poor survival rates, even in the best facilities. Without a mother to teach them essential hunting and survival skills, their future would be uncertain at best. "We'll need to prepare the isolation unit," Dr. Wheeler said, already making notes on his tablet. and contact Elizabeth about additional funding for proper rehabilitation. As the staff bustled about, preparing for the pup's arrival, no one noticed Lou sitting attentively by the door, ears perked forward as if she somehow understood the significance of the conversation. No one could have possibly imagined the extraordinary role this gentle Labrador would soon play in the lives of 3 orphaned coyote pups, or how that relationship would ultimately save her life during a violent desert storm 2 years later. The coyote pups arrived at Sagebrush the following afternoon in a specialized transport carrier. Abby and Dr. Wheeler stood outside the medical facility as a wildlife officer carefully unloaded the precious cargo. "They're severely dehydrated," explained Officer Martinez, her expression grim. "We estimate they're about 4 weeks old." Been without their mother for nearly 36 hours. Inside the medical facility, the carrier was gently opened. 3 pairs of blue-gold eyes blinked nervously at the strange faces surrounding them. The pups were small and fuzzy, their tawny coats still showing the softness of infancy, their slender legs unsteady as they huddled together defensively. 2 males and 1 female, Dr. Wheeler noted as he began his examination. Malnourished, but no serious injuries. Resilient little things. Throughout the examination, Lou had been sitting quietly in her usual corner of the medical room. Abby hadn't wanted to leave her behind that morning, despite knowing they'd be receiving wild predators. Now she watched with astonishment as Lou's behavior suddenly changed. The Labrador's ears perked forward, her nose twitching rapidly. A soft whine escaped her throat. "Lou, stay," Abby commanded gently, worried the pups might be frightened. But Lou wasn't exhibiting aggression, quite the opposite. She inched forward, her body language showing intense interest but no threat. The smallest pup, the female, let out a pitiful yip. Lou responded with a nurturing whimper that startled everyone in the room. "That's remarkable," Dr. Wheeler said, observing Lou's behavior with professional interest. "She's responding to their distress calls." Dr. Maya Rodriguez, a coyote specialist who had been called in to consult, watched the interaction with fascination. Canids can recognize distress vocalizations across species, but this level of response suggests something deeper, almost maternal. Under close supervision, Lou was allowed to approach. To everyone's astonishment, she began gently licking the female pup's face, a distinctly maternal gesture. The pup didn't pull away. Instead, it leaned into the contact. Over the next few hours, as a special nursery area was prepared for the pups, Lou refused to leave their side. When the staff attempted to separate her from them, she became visibly distressed, pacing and whining at the door. "Maybe we should consider letting her stay with them," Abby suggested hesitantly. "Under supervision, of course." "That's completely unorthodox," Dr. Rodriguez frowned, adjusting her glasses. "But then again, these are extraordinary circumstances." After much discussion and multiple consultations with experts, a decision was made. Lou would be permitted to interact with the pups under strict supervision. If at any point it seemed dangerous for either party, they would be separated immediately. What followed was nothing short of miraculous. The pups, who had been reluctant to eat, began accepting formula from bottles while nestled against Lou's warm fur. They slept curled against her, their small bodies finding comfort in her steady heartbeat, much as they would have with their biological mother. "She's providing something we simply can't," Abby observed with wonder. "A living, breathing, maternal presence." Days turned into weeks, and Lou's devotion never wavered. She cleaned the pups after meals, gently corrected them with nudges when their play became too rough, and seemed to understand exactly what they needed. The pups, now named Sage, Mesa, and Sonora, thrived under her care, gaining weight and showing increasing curiosity about their surroundings. Daniel Thompson documented the extraordinary relationship with his camera, his photos capturing tender moments between the unlikely family members. "This challenges everything we think we know about natural instincts," he remarked, watching Lou patiently allow the growing pups to clamber over her. "These are natural competitors in the wild, yet here they are, family." As the weeks turned to months, another reality began to assert itself. The pups were growing rapidly, their play becoming increasingly rough as their wild instincts emerged. By 3 months of age, their teeth and claws had developed enough to inadvertently hurt Lou during their roughhousing, though she bore it with remarkable patience. The decision that everyone had been dreading now loomed on the horizon. For their safety and Lou's, separation would soon become necessary. The bond that had saved 3 orphaned coyotes would need to be broken, and no one at Sagebrush looked forward to the heartbreak that would inevitably follow. The inevitable day arrived as summer heat gave way to autumn's cooler temperatures. Sage, Mesa, and Sonora had grown remarkably over their 3 months under Lou's care. Once tiny, helpless pups that fit in Abby's hands, they now weighed nearly 20 pounds each, their baby fuzz replaced by coarser adult coats, their playful nips carrying enough force to draw blood. Abby stood at the observation window, watching Lou patiently endure Sonora's enthusiastic pouncing. The Labrador's tolerance was remarkable, but even she occasionally winced when play became too rough. "We can't postpone this any longer," Dr. Wheeler said quietly, joining her at the window. "Lou has several puncture wounds from yesterday's play session." Abby nodded, her throat tight. "The transition enclosure is ready. The team has been briefed." The plan had been meticulously developed with input from coyote specialists across the Southwest. The pups would move to a specialized natural habitat where they could develop more appropriate wild behaviors while still receiving supplemental care. It was a necessary step toward their eventual release to a larger sanctuary area and away from their canine mother. "Lou's going to take this hard," Abby murmured, watching as the Labrador gently groomed Mesa's ears. "Animals are remarkably adaptable," Dr. Wheeler assured her, though his voice held a note of uncertainty. "And Lou has always been exceptional." The separation was handled with the utmost care. While Lou accompanied Abby on her morning walk, the pups were transferred to their new habitat half a mile away on the sanctuary grounds. After much debate, the team had decided against allowing a final goodbye, fearing it would only confuse both Lou and the pups. When Lou returned to find the nursery empty, her reaction broke everyone's heart. The Labrador searched every corner, sniffing frantically, her tail drooping progressively lower. She let out a mournful howl that seemed to echo through the silent room. "I'm so sorry, girl," Abby whispered, kneeling beside her faithful companion. They had to move on. For days afterward, Lou's demeanor changed dramatically. The once cheerful dog became subdued, often wandering to the now empty nursery to lie there for hours, her soulful eyes fixed on the door as if expecting her adopted offspring to return. Elizabeth Carson, witnessing Lou's grief during one of her donor visits, was visibly moved. "Perhaps we should arrange for her to see them, from a distance, of course. It might just prolong her attachment," Dr. Rodriguez advised. "Better to let her adjust naturally." Daniel, who had grown especially close to Lou during his documentation of the pup's care, offered a different perspective. "In all my years photographing animals, I've seen that closure isn't just a human concept. Sometimes seeing that their young are thriving helps the mother move on. After careful consideration, Abby decided to try. 1 week after the separation, she brought Lou to an elevated observation platform overlooking the pups' new enclosure. The 3 young coyotes were visible in the distance, playfully chasing each other through the desert scrub. Lou's reaction was immediate and heartbreaking. Her ears perked forward, tail wagging with excitement for the first time in days. She whined softly, pressing against the barrier as if trying to reach them. "She recognizes them even from this distance," Abby said softly, stroking Lou's head. Though Lou seemed disappointed when they left without reuniting with the pups, her mood afterward was noticeably improved. It was as if seeing her children thriving had provided some comfort. Gradually, Lou began to resume her former routines. She accompanied Abby on rounds, assisted with small tasks around the sanctuary, and greeted visitors with a subdued version of her once exuberant welcome. The deep sadness in her eyes slowly faded, though never completely disappeared. Meanwhile, Sage, Mesa, and Sonora flourished in their new environment. Under the guidance of specialized caretakers, they learned to hunt through various enrichment activities, their natural instincts developing as they grew. By winter, they had doubled in size, their bodies transforming from puppy plumpness to the lean, efficient builds of young adult coyotes. 6 months after the separation, Dr. Rodriguez proposed a controlled observation. "I'd like to see if they still recognize Lou after this time apart," she explained. "The implications for understanding long-term memory in canids could be significant." No one at Sagebrush could have predicted that this experiment would become unnecessary, as a violent desert storm would soon bring Lou and her grown children face to face in a life-or-death encounter that would test the bonds they had formed in those precious early weeks. 2 years had passed since Lou first welcomed the coyote pups into her heart. New Mexico summers brought monsoon seasons, but the violent storm system approaching Sagebrush had meteorologists using words like historic and potentially catastrophic. "All non-essential personnel need to evacuate now," Abby instructed, raising her voice over the howling wind that battered the sanctuary buildings. "Essential staff, you know your emergency assignments. Animal safety is our priority." Dr. Wheeler nodded grimly, distributing weather radios to the skeleton crew that would remain. "If conditions worsen, we'll implement full evacuation protocols." Abby knelt beside Lou, securing a bright orange safety vest around the Labrador's chest. "You stay with me, girl. No wandering off today." The first thunderclap hit with such force that the lights flickered ominously. Lou pressed against Abby's leg, trembling visibly. Despite her years at the sanctuary, thunderstorms remained her one insurmountable fear. "I need to check the backup generators," Abby told Dr. Wheeler, gripping Lou's leash tightly. "Then I'll make a final round of the coyote enclosures." By the time they reached the coyote habitat, the storm had intensified dramatically. Wind-driven sand lashed against them with blinding force. A massive crack echoed overhead as an ancient cottonwood splintered, sending a large branch crashing onto the perimeter fence. "Control, we have fence damage in Section C," Abby shouted into her radio. "No breach of the coyote enclosure, but we need—" Her words were cut short as Lou, panicked by a deafening thunderclap directly overhead, yanked backwards with unexpected force. The sudden movement, combined with the slick pathway, sent Abby sprawling. The leash slipped from her grasp as Lou bolted in blind terror. "Lou!" Abby scrambled to her feet, catching a glimpse of golden fur disappearing behind a supply shed. "Control! My dog is loose." "I'm in pursuit!" The next few minutes were chaos as Abby searched frantically, calling Lou's name into the howling wind. Visibility was reduced to mere feet by the driving sand and rain. When her radio crackled with Dr. Wheeler's voice, his words sent ice through her veins. "Abby, security cameras show Lou has somehow entered the coyote habitat, east side near the rock formation." Abby ran as she had never run before, heart hammering in her chest. The coyote habitat housed 6 adult coyotes, including Sage, Mesa, and Sonora, now fully mature. While they had recognized Lou through glass 6 months ago, they had since embraced their wild natures. Would they remember her now, or would their predatory instincts take over? Reaching the observation deck, Abby could make out shapes moving through the storm. Lou stood trembling in the center of the habitat, her golden coat plastered to her frame, making her appear smaller and more vulnerable. "I'm going in," Abby said into her radio, reaching for the emergency access panel. "Absolutely not." Dr. Wheeler's response was immediate. "Security is bringing tranquilizer rifles." "There's no time," Abby protested, watching in horror as several lean forms emerged from various shelters, their attention fixed on the intruder in their territory. The largest coyote, a male named Diablo with no connection to Lou, took a menacing step forward, his hackles raised, teeth bared in a warning snarl. Lou cowered, frozen in terror, a pitiful whimper escaping her throat. What happened next defied explanation. 3 coyotes suddenly moved with astonishing speed, positioning themselves between Lou and the approaching Diablo. Sage, flanked by his siblings Mesa and Sonora, stood protectively around the trembling Labrador. Their posture was unmistakable, protecting, not threatening. Diablo paused, clearly confused by this unexpected development. A tense standoff ensued, broken only when Sonora issued a warning yip that carried a clear message. "This dog is under our protection." One by one, the unrelated coyotes retreated to their shelters, apparently deciding that this strange situation wasn't worth challenging the 3 siblings, who had established themselves as a cohesive unit. With the immediate danger averted, Sage, Mesa, and Sonora turned their attention to Lou. To Abby's astonishment, the 3 coyotes gently encircled the Labrador, their bodies creating a shelter from the driving rain. Sonora, who had always been closest to Lou, gently nudged the dog with her nose, an echo of how Lou had once nudged her as a pup. "Blood recognizes blood," whispered Daniel, who had remained at the sanctuary to document the storm's impact. "Not by genetics, but by bonds of the heart." As the rescue team arrived with specialized equipment, they found an extraordinary scene. Lou was nestled between the 3 coyotes, all 4 animals huddled together against the storm's fury. In the months that followed, the incredible story of Lou and her coyote children captured hearts worldwide. Elizabeth Carson funded a groundbreaking research center at Sagebrush dedicated to studying cross-species relationships. A special viewing area was constructed where Lou could safely see her grown coyotes on a regular schedule. Visits that became the sanctuary's most popular attraction, with Sonora always the first to approach when her canine mother appeared. For Abby, watching Lou contentedly napping in a patch of sunshine near the coyote habitat one perfect autumn afternoon, the most profound lesson was beautifully simple. Love, in its purest form, knows no boundaries. Not time, not species, not separation. Once formed, such bonds become as enduring as the ancient desert itself. I hope you enjoyed this story. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss touching stories. Leave a like and then comment below what you thought of the emotional stories. See you in the next video.